Hello scholars. Today we are going to study History chapter 8, that is Education under the British rule. After the decline of Mughal Empire, the educational institutions of India were affected very badly. Initially, even the Britishers were not taking any initiative to develop the educational system of India. But under the pressure of British Parliament and educated Indians, the Britishers need to take certain necessary steps to develop the educational system of India. And for that purpose, various Christian missionaries were sent to India for setting up educational institutions. The Charter Act of 1698, it directed the East India Company to maintain schools in all the territories governed by them. So the first school which was opened was in Madras in 1715, and that was St. Mary's Charity School. After that, different schools were opened for Hindus, Muslims and even for Christians by the time of 1725. As the Christian missionaries came for two purposes. First, to set up educational institution, and second, to convert Indians to Christianity. So for that sake, they started a printing press where they printed Bible in 26 different languages. So the people belonging to different languages can read it and can be easily diverted towards Christianity. So in this chapter, we'll be discussing about how the Britishers developed the educational system in India. First of all, we are going to study about education in pre-British India. As per the reports of two British men, William Adam and William Arnold, we are able to know about the elementary education system of India. As per these Britishers, both the primary and higher educational system was prevailing in India since 18th century. There were both type of educations, private education at home and public education system in the form of pathshalas. Both these Britishers have given their reports on the basis of schools which are in Bengal, Bihar and Punjab. On their trip, they have found approximately 1 lakh schools in India, and each school is having 20 students. All these pathshalas were owned either by wealthy merchants or by the communities, or at times it was run by the guru who is willing to teach the children. All these pathshalas generally have a flexible system of education. There were no schools. Children used to sit in open spaces under the trees to get education. There was no fees charged for this type of education system. Children used to sit mostly on ground rather than benches. The education which was given was generally oral, and the children used to learn simple arithmetic rules. There was no set syllabus. The children even learn religious stories, and the gurus, they teach according to the need of the children. The children of all the age groups sit together and get the same type of education. One more feature related to this type of educational system was the children could take leave at the time of sowing of seeds and harvesting of crops, because mostly the children belong to agricultural background families and they need to help their families during this time period. And once these works are done, the school will get restarted. So this was about the schools which were running in Bengal and Bihar. Next were the schools in Punjab, and the description of those schools were given by William Arnold. In Punjab, the method of giving education was through reading aloud. The children were asked to read lengthy text whether they understand or not. Even maktabs were opened for Hindus and Muslims both, and the common subjects which were taught were poetry, language, law, astronomy and so on. Even Sanskrit academies were set up to enable the Brahmin children to study about Hindu religion, philosophy, Panini's grammar, law and poetry. Next we are going to study about education in East India Company. As we have already discussed, that the Christian missionaries were sent to India to develop the educational institutions. Along with that, even the officials of East India Company contributed for the development of educational system in India. Some developments in education were Calcutta Madrasa was set up by Warren Hastings to promote the study of Arabic, Islamic and Persian law. Jonathan Duncan set up the Banaras Hindu College for the study of Hindu laws and culture. Sir William Jones founded the Royal Asiatic Society of Bengal to promote the study of ancient Hindu religion and culture. Last development in education was the Charter Act of 1813. As per the Charter Act of 1813, an annual expenditure of 1 lakh should be spent for the promotion of Indian literature. The charter meant to promote the knowledge of science among the Indians. Next was the introduction of Committee of Public Instruction in 1823. This committee basically aimed at teaching Sanskrit, and for that it has opened 2 colleges, one at Calcutta and other at Delhi. This committee even aims to regulate the distribution of grants among the educational institutions. Next we are going to study about the 2 schools of thoughts, which are Orientalist and Anglicist. First of all, we will be discussing about Orientalist. Orientalists were those who were having good knowledge about the culture of Asia. They generally favor the development of Sanskrit and Persian language and even demanded the medium of teaching should be in these languages only. They wanted to open such type of schools in which importance should be given to the study of Indian text. Orientalists were even having a political motive behind the promotion of Sanskrit and Persian language, because all the Indian text, especially based on administration, rules, laws and revenues, were generally written in Sanskrit or Persian language. So for better administration and judiciary, and for a better understanding of India's past, its culture, Indian text, its religion, the company officials wanted the educated people, those who are aware of Sanskrit and Persian language and could translate all these terms to them in simpler forms. So in this manner, the company officials demanded more people, those who are well versed in these languages. William Jones was one such Orientalist. He was known to languages like English, French, Persian, and when he came to India, he joined the company of Hindu Pandits and learned Sanskrit language, poetry and grammar. Later on, he was joined by Henry Thomas Colebrooke and Nathaniel Halt, as they were also interested in Indian text. Later on, all these people have translated many Indian texts into other languages and even founded the Asiatic Society and has started a journal named Asiatic Researchers. In this manner, all these Orientalists, they have contributed in the development of educational system. Next, we are going to study about Anglicists. The Anglicists were contradictory to the Orientalist. Anglicists promoted the use of English language as the medium of instruction in different schools. They even considered the knowledge of East as unscientific and light-hearted. James Mill and Thomas Macaulay were 2 such Anglicists who were in favor of English and scientific knowledge. They even want that scientific knowledge should be given to Indians, and some of the Indian reformers such as Raja Ram Mohan Roy was also in favor of imparting Western education to Indians in English medium. Next, we are going to study about Macaulay's Minute of 2nd February in 1835, when Macaulay was appointed the chairman of Committee of Public Instructions. He laid stress on teaching science as a subject and English as the medium of communication in schools. As per Macaulay's Minute of 2nd February, he led that the main aim of British educational system was to develop Western literature and science among the Indians. And for that purpose, all the funds should be invested in English medium schools and some effort should be made to stop the promotion of Banaras College and Calcutta Madrasa, which are based on Oriental learning. So in this manner, Macaulay stressed on the introduction of English medium or English language as the means of communication and teaching to the Indians. Next we are going to study about Charles Wood's dispatch of 1854. In 1854, Charles Wood, who was the president of Board of Control, he presented a scheme or a coordinated system of education on all India basis. And this system of education was termed as Wood's dispatch. As per Wood's dispatch, certain recommendations were done for the betterment of educational system. So the recommendations which are done by Wood's dispatch are: teaching of Western education would be the aim of government's educational policy. Medium of instruction in higher classes to be in English language. Grants in aid were to be provided to encourage education. A department of public instruction was to be made to see the progress of education in different areas. Recommended establishment of teachers training institutions. Provision for setting up universities at Bombay, Madras and Calcutta. Supported the cause of educating women. Stress was laid on the establishment of vocational schools and colleges where the children should be taught some art form. The last and most important recommendation of Wood's dispatch was such provision should be made to set up primary schools in villages where the children should be taught in vernacular languages, and at district level such schools and colleges should be opened where the children should be taught in English language. So in this manner, he stressed on both medium of education at primary level and at higher level. As the recommendation of Wood's dispatch covers each and every field of education, so it was termed as the Magna Carta of English education in India. And as per its recommendations, universities were set up in Bombay, Madras and Calcutta in 1857. And Department of Public Instruction was set up in 1855. Some schools were opened for girls and grants and aids were given to develop the modern education system in India. Next we are going to study about the practical benefits of dispatch. Other than the educational benefits, the Wood's dispatch was even having some other benefits for the company officials. First was economic benefit. It was said that when the Indians will learn the scientific language, then they will be more aware about the trade and commerce, and in this manner, it will lead to a development in the human resource of the country. The other benefit was when the people will start adopting the European way of living. In this manner, they will demand more European goods, European clothes and European luxuries. In this manner, it will in turn lead to development in trade for the East India Company. It was even said that European way of learning will inculcate some moral values of honesty and truthfulness among the Indians, which will serve the political benefits of East India Company, and they can rely more on Indians for their work. Last benefit was European learning will develop a sense of desire and commitments of Indians towards their duties. In this manner, the company will get the people, those who are Indians by origin, but European by their thoughts, skills and working methods. Next we are going to study about the fate of indigenous Pathshalas. As we have studied right now, that the recommendations which are given by Wood's dispatch were being enforced practically into our country. So as per that, primary schools were set up in villages which were using vernacular languages as a means of communication and teaching. And on the other hand, schools and colleges were set up at district level where the children are taught in English language. The company even appointed some pandits, those who were in charge of 4 to 5 schools. They were working on behalf of company and they were asked to submit a report of the schools to the company officials. They were even having the duty to teach in the school and to see the working of the institutions and how the developments could be done in these educational institutions. As we have to study about the fate of Pathshalas, means what happened to the old system of Pathshalas. So the free atmosphere of Pathshalas was converted into a timetable based system for both the teachers and students. Students have to come to school regularly. They have to pay the school fees, attend the schools regularly and give the examinations. The Pathshalas which were running since earlier times have to follow these new rules and regulations which are given by the company officials. And the Pathshalas, those who deny to use or follow these rules and regulations, were not given any type of support, and other Pathshalas were given grant in aids. So in this manner, it was very difficult to run those Pathshalas which are not following these new rules and regulations. As per this new education system, even the education of poor also suffered. As we have discussed, in earlier time Pathshalas, the children can take leave during the time of sowing and harvesting. But in this present system, if the children are taking leave, then they are missing their classes. And this was even a type of indiscipline charged by the company officials. So in this manner, the poor children, they were not able to get education in the new educational system. Next, we are going to study about the drawbacks of modern education. Along with some advantages, there were certain drawbacks of modern education system. So some drawbacks were that parents often complained that the children are not following the Indian traditions. Britishers were able to develop Indian societies with European taste, which has resulted in creating cultural differences among the members in the same family and in the society. Even there was a gap between the people, those who learned in vernacular languages and in English languages. So this has created a gap among the people in the same society as per their language in which they got the knowledge. This education system even neglected the education of girls, and no scientific and technical development was done in the field of education. One more drawback was that this system avoided or neglected the education of masses or large number of people. As according to new system, the children have to pay regular fees and has to attend the school regularly. So it was not possible for many of the children to attend the classes regularly. So this system could not be afforded by the average Indian or a person who is having an average income. The Indians, those who have got the modern education, they completely started following the European way of living, and they simply forgot the contribution of Indians in the field of art, literature and so on. In this manner, they were different in their own country. So these were some of the drawbacks of modern education. But as we know, along with some disadvantages, there are certain advantages too. So some advantages of modern education was, it has developed a scientific sense among the Indians. Now the Indians were able to understand the concept of nationalism, socialism, equality, liberty and democracy. The Western education has broadened their mind and outlook, and the people have started thinking in a scientific manner. Even the mixing of two cultures, Indian and Western, has made the Indians aware that some social evils which were prevalent in Indian society should be abolished or should be removed from the society if they want the society to develop. In this manner, it has resulted in bringing up changes in our society, or we can say it has started an age of renaissance or change in the Indian society. Next, we are going to study about the efforts of Indian nationals in the field of education. The Indian nationalists, they started to challenge the modern education system. They started finding loopholes in this education system. They themselves took the charge of developing the education system which was based on nationalism. Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Rabindranath Tagore were the two nationals, those who were termed as the pioneers of educational reforms in India. The first step towards these reforms were the formation of National Council of Education. As per this council, national schools and national colleges were set up in our country, which were based on nationalist approach in education. The children were asked to have a scientific outlook and they were taught to pursue higher studies based on higher sciences. Next was the formation of Indian Association for Cultivation of Science, which was formed by Mahendra Lal Sircar. Next was the setup of Indian Science Congress Association, in which the scientists from all over the country gathered at one place and worked for the development of science. So now we are going to study about the contribution of different nationals in the field of education. First of all, we are going to study about Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was quite aware of Hindu scriptures, Vedas and Upanishads. But on the other hand, he was also in favor of giving modern education to the children through English medium. He was a linguist who was aware of different languages like Arabic, Persian, Sanskrit, English and Greek. He was even having the knowledge of Christianity and has written a book named The Precepts of Jesus. In 1817, he has set up a Hindu college at Calcutta, and in 1825, he has set up Vedanta College. Next reformer was Swami Dayanand Saraswati. Swami Dayanand Saraswati founded the Arya Samaj, which worked for promoting the religion of Aryans. He gave the slogan back to the Vedas, and to give the teaching of Vedas, he has opened Gurukul Pathshalas at Haridwar. And even to promote modern education and Western sciences, he has started DAV schools, which are termed as Dayanand Anglo-Vedic schools in different parts of the countries to teach the people Indian and modern sciences. Next reformer was Mrs. Annie Besant. Mrs. Annie Besant led the foundation of Hindu College at Banaras in 1898, which took the form of Banaras Hindu University in 1916. This college taught both the Hindu text and Western sciences. Mrs. Annie Besant was elected as the president of Theosophical Society, which was related with the Hindu philosophy of karma. As per this society, they stressed on the values of brotherhood and humanity. Next reformer was Pandit Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. He basically worked for the education of girls. He even stressed on developing Sanskrit language and had adopted various ways and has opened schools to impart the Sanskrit education. Next we'll be studying about the growth of national education. As we have studied right now that many reformers worked for changing the educational system in our India and has opened various national schools and colleges. So first national school was opened at Rangpur in Bengal. The Dawn Society was founded by Satish Chandra Mukherjee, and this society laid emphasis on the system of education which was based on the feeling of nationality or nationalism. He even organized National Council of Education, which has set up Bengal National College and School, and Sri Aurobindo was the first principal of that school. As National Council of Education was introduced to develop national schools and colleges. So some of its policies are, it stressed on giving easy education in the form of vernacular languages. English language was marked as a compulsory second language. Technical education was given to the children up to class 5. Provisions were made for research and studies in ancient history, philosophy, economics, arts and science. So these were some of the policies of National Council of Education. Next we'll be studying about the contribution of Rabindranath Tagore and Mahatma Gandhi in the field of education. First of all, we'll study about the contribution of Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore, since his childhood, was not in favor of teaching the children in a class, as a prison, and the children as prisoner. He was always in favor of giving a free and open space to the children to study. He always stressed on a creative and natural environment of study to the children. He wanted the teachers to be loving and caring, and they should be able to solve the anxiety of children rather than going for a set curriculum or syllabus for them. For that purpose, he has opened a school at Shanti Niketan, nearby Calcutta. Here children study among the peace and harmony of nature. Tagore believed that mother tongue should be the medium of instructions or communication among the children. Shanti Niketan attracted children from different parts of the world, and later on it got converted into the famous University of Vishwa Bharati. Next we are going to study about the contribution of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was completely against the westernization of education system. He felt that the Indians are completely becoming slaves under the modern education system and were neglecting the Indian culture and its heritage. So for that he introduced Nai Talim, which was a combination of art, health and education. He was in favor of teaching the children in their mother tongue and even stressed on the development of mind, body and soul through education system. In 1937, he proposed Vardha scheme, which was based on learning through activity, which was a 7-year course of study for the children in their mother tongue. Mahatma Gandhi even stressed on practical knowledge rather than giving the knowledge of books. In this manner, various reformers and nationals worked for bringing improvements and developments in the education system during the Britishers. So this was all about the chapter. Before winding up, let us discuss about the highlights of chapter. The first school, St. Mary's Charity School, was started in Madras in 1715. Universities were set up in Bombay, Madras and Calcutta in 1857. Sir William Jones founded the Royal Asiatic Society of Bengal in 1784. Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Rabindranath Tagore were the pioneers of educational reforms in India. The first national school was opened at Rangpur in Bengal. Wood's Dispatch was also known as the Magna Carta of English education. William Jones, Henry Thomas Colebrook and Nathaniel Holt were some Orientalists. James Mill and Thomas Babington Macaulay were the main Anglicists. So these were some of the important points related to the chapter. With this we are going to wind up today's class. Good day for now. Stay home, stay safe.